The ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas has held since last weekend. Hamas released hostages last weekend and again yesterday, as did Israel with Palestinian prisoners. This is set to continue under phase 1 of the deal, which lasts 5 more weeks. Still to be negotiated are a possible phase 2 or 3, which could bring back all the hostages and even end the war for good and begin a new chapter in Gaza. Earlier this week, I spoke in Davos to Israel's head of state, President Isaac Herzog, about the prospects for phase 2 and about the future of the region, a potential Palestinian state, and much more.
We are, what is it now, 1 year, 3 months from the October 7th attack, which then triggered the war. And it seems to me that Israel's situation today has utterly transformed. Hamas is in very bad shape. Its leadership has been largely destroyed. Hezbollah has been substantially weakened. Multiple levels of its leadership have been destroyed. Iran, its air defenses have been essentially neutralized. Its capacity to make weaponry has been significantly impeded. When you look at all that, do you view it as an opportunity for Israel, and what kind of opportunity?
First of all, we are still at war. Of course, the ceasefire began on Sunday, and that is a very blessed moment, especially as we are hoping and yearning and working towards bringing back our hostages. Clearly, the situation poses a great opportunity for the world at large, especially the free world, because the source of evil that emanates and covers us all starts with terror, especially with Iranian-instigated terror. This is the strategic issue above everything. Each proxy you deal with, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, Iraq, etc., so forth and so on, it is all supported, financed, organized, commanded, controlled, trained by Iran. This empire of evil in Tehran is still spending billions, and I have news for you and the entire universe. They are working day in, day out, even now. Rather than soul-searching, looking in the mirror, seeing how they failed and how much damage and havoc and sorrow they created with their barbaric attacks with their proxies, they are continuing endlessly rushing towards the bomb. And of course, planning all the time terror attacks world over and in our region. And I'm warning the world not to fall into kind of an aura of optimism, but rather be lucid about it.
But let me ask you then, what would you advocate happen with Iran? Because right now, the United States has already a fairly strong, there are sanctions against Iran. The United States supported Israel when it went after Iran's air defenses. Do you believe this is the moment to strike Iran? Do you believe it's the moment to confront Iran with a new nuclear deal, which is, no nuclear program, but also no support for proxies?
So I would be, of course, cautious in what I say because of the sensitivity. And it will have to be deliberated between Israel and all the rest of the region with the US administration. Clearly, one thing has to be absolutely clear: Iran cannot have nuclear capabilities. And two, Iran has to stop with its proxies and this kind of axis of evil which has caused such tremendous pain.
Let me ask you about the prospects of getting more hostages out, which is getting to the second phase of the deal.
Yes.
At the second phase of the deal, Israeli forces do have to withdraw, according to the outlines, from some substantial areas. If that happens, it has already been made clear that the Minister of Finance, Mr. Smotrich, will resign, in which case Bibi Netanyahu does not have a majority. Is it inevitable that we will never get to the second phase because of that complexity?
No, I believe that there is a clear potential of getting to the second phase. There is a desire to get to the second phase. We meant it when we signed the agreement. We know that there are challenges and arguments. Israel is a democracy, and you want to know something. I truly understand those who have reservations and fears, because we are going to release terrible terrorists. This is the whole equation. We are asking to release women and children, and for that we are paying with terrorists, cruel, barbaric terrorists. But we all agree that this has to be done. We want them home. It's top priority of the nation of Israel. We will have to deal with the real question of the day after in Gaza. How do we make sure that this does not recur? How do we make sure that it's not Hamas who dictates and leads that place? We have to learn from historic lessons and from all our experiences, and as such, focus on that. And I think the crux of the discussions will have to deal with that regarding the second phase.
So people like General Petraeus, who is a friend of Israel, say that Israel's military strategy has been misguided, that it has been entirely focused on simply destroying Hamas without building up confidence and in the rest of the Palestinian population, and without separating, if you will, the terrorists from the local population. As a result, he predicted very early on my program that Israel would have to keep going back into each of these towns, Khan Yunis, wherever it was, back, again and again. That does seem to be what's happened. So how do you get out of that cycle without trying to in some way give the Palestinians in Gaza some confidence that they have a leadership that they feel is legitimate?
There's one thing in Petraeus' comments that in my mind suffer from a certain naivete in the way you focus on it. The truth of the matter is that our soldiers were shocked in the infrastructure that they found in Gaza, meaning in so many houses there were tunnels leading to the command and control centers of Hamas, to places where hostages are held, to huge amount of ammunition. It's a whole school of military operational tactics that were basically strategy. They filled up Gaza on behalf of Iran and Hamas as a terror base to be launched against Israel. Same goes, by the way, for southern Lebanon. You know that we unraveled about 85,000 weapons of all sorts, from missiles to rifles, throughout the little strip that we took over and cleaned up in southern Lebanon. So meaning that we have an issue here, how to make sure that this does not recur. When I spoke in Congress 3 months before the war, in a joint session, I said that it is only terror which is blocking peace.
Next on GPS, I asked President Herzog whether Israel is committed to the creation of a Palestinian state. More now of my interview from Davos with Israel's President Isaac Herzog.
So you talked about transforming the region, and part of that clearly would be if Israel and Saudi Arabia could have relations, because that would almost certainly then trigger a broader Arab reconciliation with Israel. The Saudi government has made clear that in order for that to happen, they need to see, in the foreign minister's words, permanent and irreversible steps toward a Palestinian state. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia has talked about a return to 67 borders. Is Israel willing to make those kind of concessions to get to that transformed state of relations?
So I would say, first of all, that the grand vision, and it's something that makes so much sense, is that the children of Abraham, Muslims and Jews and Muslims, dwell together in peace in the region of their creation. It is something that after the enormous pain, really pain and enormous tragedies, we should strive for. And I think that a cornerstone for the next step of getting to that dream realized is a normalization, as they call it. But let's be honest, there's real dialogue between Israel and Saudi Arabia. And I believe that this must be moved forward. I say it openly. I supported it, and I still support it.
What is your vision for the 7 million Palestinians who live in Israel, in Gaza and the West Bank? They neither have full political rights
in Israel, they are not Israeli citizens, nor do they have full political rights in their own country. What is to happen to them?
So we should strive for peace, and they deserve to have peace just like us. And, but it requires them to disseminate and understand that terror is out of the question under any circumstances. I believe that there will be a moment after the enormous pain and after the rules are set, which mean no more terror, that there will be a moment where we'll have to have a real peace with our Palestinian neighbors. And I dream of that day, but it will take time.
Does that include a Palestinian state?
It includes many ideas, because the idea of the two-state solution is something which, on record, I supported in the past many times. But I would say that I had a wake-up call following October 7th in the sense that I want to hear my neighbors say how much they object, regret, condemn, and do not accept in any way the terrible tragedy of the terror attack of October 7th and the fact that terror cannot be the tool to get there. I mean, innocent civilians were butchered, raped, abducted, burned to death. Hostages are still in the dungeons of Gaza. This doesn't work this way. If we are dignified human beings, it is unacceptable under any norm. We understand that there must be a political move forward on the Palestinian front. But one has to understand the state of mind of Israelis. To come after such a horror and a national trauma, surrounded from 7 different frontiers, and expect Israelis to say, hey guys, we are just, we're withdrawing, we're pulling out from that settlement or otherwise, that's not realistic at all. It doesn't make sense to Israelis. They need to see something that makes sense in terms of their personal security and safety.
Thanks to President Herzog for his perspective. Next, I'll speak to an official from Israel's chief enemy, Iran.